Hello and welcome back to the TCM YouTube channel where we are continuing our previews for the 2023 county season. And this time we are heading to the Midlands and we're having a look at what Warwickshire are going to do this season. And joining me to do so is the cricket connoisseur himself, Aaron. Thanks for joining us. How excited are you for the 2023 season?
Well, first things first, Simon, thank you very much for having me on the channel. Obviously, big fan of the Cricket Men. Think you're absolutely crushing it on Twitter. So thanks again for all of the content. But am I excited for the 2023 county season? Obviously, yes, absolutely. This has felt like such a long winter. And I just love this time of year. It's fantastic, isn't it? The county championship, as of this recording, 17 days away. So great time of year.
Absolutely, indeed. Let's start. As if you've watched a few of these now, you'll notice they follow a bit of a formula. And we start by looking back at last year. So Warwickshire, I was actually quite surprised when I was doing my research for this, because in my head, I thought Warwickshire did quite well last year. But looking at the results, they were 8th in County Championship Division 1, 6th in the One Day Cup North Group, and then beaten by Hampshire in a quarter-final of the Vitality Blast. So it wasn't quite a successful season, maybe even disappointing somewhat. Are you more optimistic going into 2023?
Obviously, 100% right. This is the Warwickshire attitude. We have these bad seasons, right? We have these absolutely terrible years. I think back to 2017, for example, where we got relegated, and then in the same season, we also got to the T20 Blast final. So we are very much a club of rags to riches at times, and we either have great success or we have these terrible seasons. I think 2022 was the latter. And let's be completely honest, as much as we did fantastically well in the T20 Blast, we topped the North Group, we did reach the quarterfinals. Unfortunately, we did get hammered by the eventual champions. I believe it was 100 runs. I was there in person at Edgbaston for that quarter-final, along with 10,000 other Bears fans watching us get annihilated at the hands of Ben McDermott and James Vince, but I digress. In the county championship, though, I've got to say, that was by far and away the biggest disappointments of the summer. Let's face it, Warwickshire 2021, the county champions. We'd had an outstanding summer, unforgettable final game of the season against Somerset in that year. And then 2022, we had such a good start to the year. You know, we had that draw against Surrey. We beat Essex by 10 wickets in our second round of fixtures. I'm sat there and thinking we're going to go back to back county championship title number 9. And then we just kept on losing games and kept on losing games. And the worst month, without a shadow of a doubt, was July. So we started it, funnily enough, up at Old Trafford, where we lost. Tom Hartley scoring those sixes against us to beat us in the Blast. And then it just got worse and worse and worse. We lost all of our county championship matches. We went the entire month without a win. And things just spiraled. We got into the relegation battle. But fortunately, for us as fans of Warwickshire County Cricket Club, we do possess a secret weapon. The man, the myth, the legend himself, the pride of Cornwall, Mr. Liam Norwell, 9 for 62 in that final game of the season against Hampshire. And just to give that some extra context, we had not beaten Hampshire in the county championship since 2010. So 12 years in the making. I was not confident whatsoever. Liam Norwell, 9 for 62 on the final day of the season. Unbelievable scenes at the Fortress. So in terms of last season, Simon, really, really poor. And I don't think we can gloss over that. But with that being said, I am the eternal optimist. I'm a very, very hardcore and passionate Warwickshire fan, and I believe in this group. And we'll probably discuss this as the preview gets underway. But the signings that Warwickshire have made over the season, yes, we have had some big departures from the club, but bringing the likes of Hassan Ali, Glenn Maxwell, Christopher Rushworth, Ed Barnard, just to name a few, I think 2023 could be a good year for the Mighty Bear and Ragged staff.
Absolutely, and you've touched on it there. The lots of off-season business, as I like to call it, for Warwickshire. Countless extensions, signings. I mean, what stands out to you? Who's the big player who you see coming back, who you think, or returning, or an overseas, who you think is going to make that big impact for Warwickshire this season?
Well, it's a tough one, Si. It really is, and I'll tell you why. Because in terms of the overseas department, let's face it, Glenn Maxwell, the big show, international superstar. He's going to be mega.
I'm still jealous that you've got him over Lancashire, to be honest. I wanted him back. I still want him back.
Oh, he could be back. He could be back. You never know.
We
Fair
know
enough,
that.
not Old Trafford, because you don't have that game against Lancs this season, but you never know, finals day,
Yeah,
when both our counties are appearing in the final. Who knows? The big show could come to
who
the
knows?
forefront. But
Absolutely.
obviously, Glenn Maxwell, he stands out for me from the T20 perspective. Hassan Ali in two formats, another former Lancs player. It does seem to be a pattern over the course of the
You're just watching us with eagle eyes because you know we're so good, isn't it?
Well, to be honest, Lancs did have a good time of it last year, second across all three competitions. So I'm not entirely surprised that we have gone for that recruitment strategy. But 25 wickets, an average of 20 in 5 county championship matches. He did take some wickets against us in our game up at Old Trafford. So Hassan Ali stands out. And then in terms of players returning, obviously Sam Hain stands out. Should be in an England shirt. I've had this conversation, this discussion, debate, discourse, whatever you want to call it. That man should be in an England shirt. It's as simple as that. He was our leading run scorer in the championship last season. Outstanding player, outstanding cricketer, and a great bloke as well. Should have international honours, but that is a completely different discussion. And obviously, I've mentioned him beforehand, but Liam Norwell, if he can stay fully fit this summer, this guy has taken his wickets in the county championship at a sub-20 average for Warwickshire County Cricket Club. So if he stays fit, again, is the title charge on? We'll have to wait and see. Only time will tell.
Absolutely, and I mean, you've also got Moeen Ali coming back to Edgbaston this season. I mean, how big is that for you? I mean, deferring from the Pears to the Bears, that's quite a big move. Do you think he'll fit in well at Warwickshire? Because I know at Worcestershire he used to come back for a couple of games and he wasn't that he didn't make that much of an impact. Do you think it'll be the opposite story at Edgbaston? Do you think he'll give that boost in the dressing room?
You say he didn't have as big of an impact. I remember 2019, and this was Derby Day in the second city. Moeen Ali comes back for Worcestershire, and he scores a ton against us. And Worcestershire did dispatch us in that particular game.
I'm thinking of last year Bears v Pears, which was a different story. But yes, I take your point in terms of that.
And thankfully so. That was the correct result for us as Warwickshire fans. A thumping victory over our rivals, Worcestershire, at Edgbaston. But I think he's going to be a massive addition. And in addition to the T20 blast, obviously, he provides a wealth of experience. Obviously, a ridiculously clean hitter of the cricket ball, a shrewd and wily operator with the ball in hand, a very, very clinical wicket taker. But in addition to that, he's also on a pay-as-you-play in the county championship. So let's say at some point this summer, that Moeen Ali is available for 1 or 2 games. That's a massive addition as well in terms of balance, in terms of those spin bowling stocks. I'm excited to see Moeen Ali back. He's a Spark Hill born boy. He's from the second city. On home soil, he was a member of our Warwickshire Academy. It's great to have Moeen back. And it's funny that you mentioned, Si, actually, the pinching of talents from our rivals from across the West Midlands. But another signing who, on a county-wide perspective, could be absolutely massive is Ed Barnard. Ed Barnard is one of the most underrated cricketers in county cricket right now. He's one of the best uncapped all-rounders by a country mile. And in 2022, he was Worcestershire's leading first-class run scorer, also took 31 wickets, an average of 39.83. So I look at Ed Barnard, I look at Moeen Ali, I look at Chris Rushworth, who's got 603 first-class wickets. I look at the overseas departments. I'm excited. I'm absolutely buzzing. It should be a great season.
And you've been ridiculously busy, I think it's fair to say, in the off season. And just one man I want to touch on as well. A couple of weeks back, you're also getting Paul Sterling back for a short-term deal. How important is that? Because he was great for you in the last year, wasn't he?
Well, he was at times. He really was. I think back to the first game of the season, I was there with my friends in the Stanley Barnes stand, and he absolutely hammered Northants century, 32 runs off of a James Sales over, and some of the shots and the sixes that he he possesses are outstanding. I also think back to the 81 that he scored up at Headingley. Again, I was there for that, and it was brilliant to watch. So, in terms of those 3 or 4 games, not entirely sure how many it'll be, depending on how Glenn Maxwell does with the Royal Challengers Bangalore in the IPL. Paul Sterling's a great little stopgap, I think, for the Bears. You know, he's got plenty of experience, played for Middlesex for many a season, had that somewhat promising, but sometimes also underwhelming campaign for us last season. we can't forget that he did also have some really, really low scores in that T20 campaign. But if he fires, you've got to say international quality opener, very, very destructive hitter of the cricket ball. I think it's a good piece of business. I really do, but we'll have to wait and see.
Absolutely. Let's just quickly turn then to people that you've lost, maybe, because obviously a big news is that Dom Sibley is heading back to Surrey, and I know that'll pain you to say, but it was making me think about batting. And for Warwickshire, you know, last year you had Alex Davies, former Lancashire player, and I think it's fair to say he underperformed. Are you worried about the batting department this year in some of the competitions? Is that an area of concern for Warwickshire fans?
In the T20, no. I think in the One Day Cup, potentially, although I do think Barnard coming in is massive because last season, you have to remember, we had a very inexperienced team. We lost so many players to the 100, and that meant that our middle order was massively, massively inexperienced. Don't get me wrong, the likes of Ethan Brooks and Hamza Sheikh came in to open as well, and we had Kai Smith, the young Emirati wicketkeeper batter. They came in and supplemented certain gaps, but having someone like Ed Barnard in there, it's just been massive. It really is. So I think for the One Day Cup, we should be okay. The real concern for me, though, is the county championship yet again. And this has been a problem for Warwickshire for years. We've always had fantastic bowling stocks, but the batting is the weakness of this side. And you look back to 2022 and you look at the Division 1 table. So Warwickshire had 26 batting bonus points. It was the second lowest figure in the entire division. Only Essex had fewer with 24 points. So for me, first innings runs is crucial. I've mentioned already the strength of that bowling attack. Just look at it on paper. You've got Oliver Hannon-Dorby, Hassan Ali, Chris Rushworth. You've got Danny Briggs in there. You've got Liam Norwell. You've got the supplementary options of a Craig Miles, for example, over the course of the season, and Henry Brooks. The strength in depth of that bowling attack is ridiculous. The problem is, though, if we're only scoring 200, 250 runs a game, it's going to be nigh on impossible to really challenge for that title, you know, in 2023, because you look at the likes of Surrey, you look at the likes of Lancashire, who've got these ridiculous batting stocks. That is somewhere where, by comparison, I do think Warwickshire struggle. And I think it's going to be tremendously interesting. You allude to the lack of Dom Sibley, and Dom Sibley has been a major cog in that Warwickshire batting lineup ever since 2019. You know, he had that fantastic season, 1,200 runs, allowed him to get into that England side. And even last summer, in what was a somewhat underwhelming season by his standards, still scored over 800 runs. So losing that experience, losing the grit, the fortitude, the steely nature of Dom Sibley at the top is a massive loss. And it does mean that the pressure is now on the likes of Alex Davis and Rob Yates. I think that will be our opening duo this season. They've got to perform, because if they don't, it's all well and good having the likes of a Sam Hain and a Michael Burgess, who were exceptional last season, but top order runs set the tone, lay the foundation. That's something which I'll be watching very, very closely from a Warwickshire perspective heading into the course of this summer.
Absolutely. And, you know, it'd be interesting to see how that ends up. One man who's going to be with you for the start of your county championship campaign is actually Chris Wokes, which I did not think we'd be talking about given the IPL going on, but he's choosing Warwickshire. Maybe gives an indication of what he wants to do in the Ashes and Bazball going later on. But at the start of a new season and the start of a new county championship campaign, how important is it that you have someone of his experience and his caliber in your team?
It's massive. It's massive with a capital M, because I've seen so many times in recent years people questioning Chris Wokes' commitment to Warwickshire. And don't get me wrong, he's a tremendously busy man. He's had those IPL deals, he's had other franchise stints as well. And obviously he's been a mainstay in the England Test team. So he hasn't played for Warwickshire as much as he wants to. But I think back to 2021, and this really was a moment which I think summarises and best illustrates how much Warwickshire means to Chris Wokes. So it was the run into the title. And Chris was available theoretically for the last two games, but the ECB turned around to him and said, you can either play against Yorkshire at Headingley or you can play against Somerset at Edgbaston. You don't play both, and you certainly don't play the Bob Willis Trophy. So Chris says, I'm going to go and play against Yorkshire. We win that game. Chris was fantastic with the ball in hand, as we would imagine. And Warwickshire win that game and set up a final day clash against Somerset. To the surprise of many people, Chris Woakes then turns around and says, I'm making myself available for that. And he plays against Somerset, takes a ridiculous wicket against Craig Overton, makes the key breakthrough of Jack Leach in the final session with an absolute pinpoint ball onto his off stump, and Warwickshire win the county championship. So Chris Woakes is a gargantuan addition to this Warwickshire team in the early stage of the season. And as if his first class and his domestic outputs weren't good enough, this is a man who in England and Wales, right, think of all those different test venues, so Lords, the Oval, you've got obviously Edgbaston, Old Trafford, Headingley, Sophia Gardens, etc., etc. There's only one ground in this entire country where Chris Woakes has a 30-plus bowling average, and it's Trent Bridge. Other than that, all in the 20s, and at Lords it's 14. So Chris Woakes coming back, absolutely massive. The boy can bat, he can field, he's a star name. I'm absolutely elated to see the Wizard back in a Warwickshire shirt.
It's fantastic to hear your enthusiasm about that too. Someone else I want to touch on before we move on to your one to watch and some predictions is Jacob Bethel, because he's a youngster coming through the ranks. We saw him in the Under-19s World Cup a year ago now. He had a great season last season, I think it's fair to say. He's breaking into this Warwickshire team. What are you expecting from him this season?
That's a very, very interesting question, Si, because I think in the county championship, we did see him on loan at Gloucestershire. He actually scored a 50 for Gloucester as well in his game for the West Country outfit. So he can play first-class cricket. He's shown that for England under 19s as well over the winter in Australia. So whether or not we'll see him, I don't think we'll see him in the county championship. But in terms of future, someone to watch out for, goodness me, this boy's got a high ceiling. In Warwickshire, we call him Starboy, right? For those who watch football, Bukayo Saka is Arsenal's Starboy. Jacob Bethel is Warwickshire County Cricket Club's Starboy. And you just look at his skill sets, you look at the talents, the characteristics, the attributes that he possesses. He can bat. He's a very handy bowler. And to be honest, he's one of the most lively and energetic fielders I've ever seen in a Bears shirt. Right, I think back to 2021, and we lost this game, and he didn't even take this catch, but Ben Stokes absolutely rifled one to him at cover. And he made this ridiculous dive. It looked like a prime Manuel Neuer. Right, he just got a hand on it, saved it from going for 4. And I just remember looking back on that from the Raglan stand, and I went, okay, this boy can field. this boy's talented. And to be honest, you mentioned that Under-19 World Cup, England's leading run scorer, one of the tournament's run scorers as well. He is a great talent. So the real question this season in terms of Warwickshire performances will be opportunity. As I said, I don't think he'll get it in the championship. If he gets picked up in the 100, that also does limit his one-day opportunities. But in 2021, he scored a 50 in his first ever list day game for the club against Glamorgan. We did lose that game by 3 wickets. But he showed a lot of promise in the 50-over format as well. So if he's not picked up in the 100, watch out for him in the one-day cup. And in the T20 Blast, I also think he could also have a role. I think we rushed him into the opening spot, but I don't know. I think after a very, very promising winter, I wouldn't mind giving him another chance. We'll have to wait and see what Mark Robinson comes up with, but definitely someone to watch heading into the next 5-10 years, without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah, fantastic. And it will be a good one to keep an eye on. One to watch, you sort of mentioned it there. So I want to get your take. Who is your one player from Warwickshire County Cricket Club who you think our viewers and fans across the country should be looking out for this season?
That's tough. That's really tough because Bethel is one of them. Chris Benjamin is another one. Dan Mousley, Mighty Mouse, is exceptional. And he's shown that over this winter as well in franchise crickets. But I've got to go with Rob Yates. And Rob Yates, I think, actually summarises and illustrates that point I mentioned earlier about feast or famine with Warwickshire. Because 2021, he had an outstanding season in our championship title winning campaign. 793 wickets, 793 runs even. That'd be impressive.
That won't be impressive.
Those wickets, yeah, more than Chris Rushworth. But 793 runs in that season, 4 centuries, century in the Bob Willis Trophy final, and also got England Lions call-up. 2022, really, really poor season. Average less than 20, got dropped at one point in the season as well and struggled to find any form or consistency. With that being said, though, Rob Yates has done this in the past. He has these magnificent seasons and then he has a somewhat underwhelming season. So I think 2023 is going to be another one of his good seasons. I really back him. There's a reason I call him the Moseley Maestro, because he's a very, very talented cricketer. He's gritty. He's mentally tough. He's got fortitude, but he's also got application. And he has this lovely, lovely late cuts. Beautiful. We saw this in the Bob Willis Trophy final, which is just a sight to behold. So if he can get some confidence, he can get some rhythm, some early season runs in for the Bears, I think he's going to have a big season. I really, really do. So Rob Yates, he'll be my player to watch. The Moseley Maestro, definitely someone to keep a close eye on in the 2023 season.
There you go. Good on you for pinning someone down. That's good. I'm going to pin you down even more now, actually, because I'm going to get your predictions in, which are even worse. And I made mine yesterday when I was doing a Lancashire preview. And safe to say I'd probably jinx them for all eternity. So it's your turn now. Where do you think Warwickshire are going to finish in the County Championship Division 1 this year?
Oh, Simon. That is by far and away the hardest question of this entire show. Because in 2021, I actually predicted us to win the title and it happened. I predicted us to go back-to-back in 2022 and we finished 8th. So
that's a 50% success rate.
Exactly. And in addition to that, great stats, right? Arsenal currently top of the Premier League. In 2004, Arsenal won the Premier League. Guess which county won the championship?
Was it Warwickshire? Was it Warwickshire?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Wow. Title number 6 under the captaincy of a certain Nick Knight. So the omens are there. If Arsenal win, Warwickshire could win. But realistically speaking, obviously my heart says first, I would be happy with a top 4 finish. I look at the likes of Surrey. I look at the likes of Lancashire. I look at the likes of Hampshire and Essex. They really are tremendously strong teams on paper. You look at the balance, you look at the batting depth of each of those sides. Fair enough, Hampshire's more in the bowling department, but still a ridiculously strong outfit. I think if Warwickshire could have a strong season, finish 4th, I think that would be decent. With that being said, though, we're Warwickshire fans. We have higher expectations than that. We've won 22 major trophies as a club. We're one of the most successful teams in England and Wales. So 4th would be all right.
Lancashire haven't seen silverware since 2014. Can't relate to you there.
That's true, actually. Maybe we're a bit greedy. We are a bit greedy here in the Midlands ever since the 1990s. But as I said, I would take 4th. I would want 3rd. But realistically, these players should be aiming for the title. And that's me being 100% genuine. You've got Sam Hain, you've got Will Rhodes. He's experienced now. You've got Alex Davis. He's got plenty of county experience. That bowling attack can also win you the league. So it's just a case of those guys remaining fit. And obviously the big if, the $1 million question will be the batting. If the batting fails yet again, we're probably going to be towards 7th, 8th, or even 9th in the championship. If the batting comes to the forefront, as it did in 2021, though, I think a top 4 finish would be pretty good.
Absolutely. Let's move on then to the One Day Cup. Whereabouts do you think you'll sit in that? But bear in mind, obviously, you've got the 100 players and we don't know who's in that yet, although we will know on Thursday. But looking from where we are now, where do you think you'll finish?
Where I think we'll finish 3rd in our group, personally speaking, right? Because Warwickshire, I don't know what on earth we've done to manage this. We've escaped the group of death, right? Because you look at Lancashire group. Lancashire's group is ridiculous. It's got 5 of the 6 teams which reached the playoffs in last year's One Day Cup. So I am counting my lucky stars that Warwickshire County Cricket Club are not in that first group, because I wouldn't back us to get out of it. With that being said, though, I do think we've got the quote-unquote easier group on paper. So I think 3rd would be good. Quarterfinal, I'd take. It's been so many years since we've reached the quarterfinals of the One Day Cup. We won this competition in 2016, and ever since we've been so mediocre in 50 over cricket. So I'd take 3rd and a quarterfinal. I think that'd be a good place to start for Warwickshire, given the lack of those 100 players, given the inexperience of certain areas of the squad. I'm going to go with the quarterfinals, and if we don't reach that, I'm going to be very, very disappointed. I know they're very high standards, but that should be a bare minimum for a club of Warwickshire stature.
And then just finally for us, where do you think you're going to finish in the Vitality Blast? Are you going to finals day? Do you know something that's always bugged me? Is that if Warwickshire get finals day, you have a home finals day. What's that about? Honestly, tell you.
What can I say, Si? English cricket revolves around the second city of Birmingham, so we deserve that home final. But no, in terms of prediction, the T20 is always horrible to predict, isn't it? Let's be completely honest.
Yeah.
Because 2021 quarterfinalists lost to Kent, completely bottled that quarterfinal in Canterbury. I was there for that. 2022, we've already mentioned it, 100-run defeat to Hampshire, who luckily did go on to win, so that kind of softened the blow. But yeah, in terms of the Blast, it's going to be so competitive, isn't it? The North Group is just outrageous in terms of the overseas department, in terms of some of the batting lineups as well. It's going to be tremendously difficult. So again, if I'm being optimistic, I'd want top 4. We're not going to top the North Group. That happens once in a blue moon for Warwickshire County Cricket Club. It happened last year and we completely destroyed our chances in the quarterfinals. So I'd take a top 4. I'd be very, very happy. But obviously, if you're asking what I want that home finals day. You mentioned about the home support and having that on home soil. We haven't reached finals day since 2017, which is dreadful. And you look at our home record, this is something which, again, if we're looking at strengths and weaknesses this season, Warwickshire have got to improve at home. We really, really have. So I'll predict us a top 4 finish. I'll be very, very happy with that. But fingers crossed, we can reach a finals day. That's all I want for this season, to be honest. Finals day, stay up in the Championship, maybe vouch for the title in the One Day Cup. Job's a good one for the Bear and Ragged staff.
Job is indeed a good one, and job's a good one with this preview as well. Aaron, thank you very much indeed for joining us. If you enjoyed this, please like, subscribe, and we will see you next time.